Very heartbreaking news for little people, big world fans. Today we will reveal very secret news. Little people, big world fans shocked. We will recount the narrative that you have yet to hear. This is the narrative of the gradual disintegration of a couple who are cherished on reality television. The divorce of Zach and Tori Roloff is the subject of this narrative. Additionally, we will introduce you to the secret companion who has been waiting in the wings, a revelation that will surprise even the most devoted admirers. This is a narrative of betrayal, of concealed resentments, and of a love that was ultimately suffocated by the very thing that made it famous, the unremitting intensity of the public eye. Therefore, fasten your seatbelt, as the following information will eternally alter your perspective on Little People, Big World. In order to comprehend the conclusion of a love narrative, it is necessary to first revisit its inception. Zach Roloff, the reserved and timid son of Matt and Amy Roloff, and Tori Patton, the outgoing and vivacious kindergarten teacher, appeared to be an unlikely pairing. The central narrative of Little People, Big World was their courtship, which commenced in 2010. We witnessed their initial date, their initial embrace, and the intimate moments that evolved into a profound and enduring love. In 2015, their nuptials was a television event that cemented their status as reality TV royalty. The day was seemingly flawless. However, even then, the foundation of their relationship is beginning to show the subtle, nearly invisible fractures that are beginning to form as you observe closely. In the public eye, a relationship is created and nurtured under a unique and immense pressure, as stated by Dr. Alana Sterling. Each milestone, disagreement, and intimate moment has the potential to serve as a narrative. In numerous respects, the love narrative of Zach and Tori was a commodity. It was packaged and marketed to an audience that desired authenticity. However, the act of filming can gradually diminish that authenticity. And as we have discovered, the erosion began much earlier than anyone had previously believed. Despite the fact that the program depicted a harmonious union, sources who are close to the couple and have requested anonymity have a different perspective. They discuss a deteriorating relationship between Zach and Tori, a rift that was concealed for the sake of the cameras. From the outset, there was a fundamental disparity in their approach to fame. Tori accepted it. She was at ease in front of the camera and comprehended the potential of their platform. Conversely, Zach appeared to be considerably more cautious and reserved. It was his family that he cherished. He harbored affection for Tori. However, he was never at ease with the performance aspect of the situation. Once an endearing illustration of the principle of opposites attract, this disparity in their personalities began to generate a subtle tension. Tori assumed the role of the family's public face due to her adept comprehension of social media and her extroverted personality. She was responsible for the development of their image. She inadvertently cast a shadow over her spouse by sharing their lives with millions of followers. How frequently did Tori assume the initiative during interviews? How frequently was her voice used to recount their family's voyage on social media? This was a natural extension of her personality, not a malevolent deed on her part. However, for a man such as Zach, who according to our sources was already grappling with the pressures of living up to the Roloff name, it was a gradual and consistent erosion of his own sense of self. Dr. Alana Sterling, a sense of partnership is essential in any relationship, as a balance of power is necessary. When one partner assumes the role of the primary spokesperson, the other may experience a sense of voicelessness as their own identity is absorbed by the more dominant personality. This dynamic is thousands of times magnified in the context of a reality program. The individual who is more at ease in the limelight influences the narrative, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Tori and the show's producers' narrative, which was curated over the years, began to deviate increasingly from the reality of their marriage. Their 3 children, Jackson, Lila, and Josiah, were born to bring them enormous pleasure. However, it also introduced unexpected obstacles. For any couple, the process of raising children is both gorgeous and challenging. However, it was also a central narrative point of their television program for Zach and Tori. The pleasures and the struggles of parenting were not merely private experiences. They were narratives that were intended to be documented, edited, and consumed by millions. Every parenting decision, milestone, and health challenge faced by the children was the subject of a discussion that not only Zach and Tori, but also a team of producers were involved in. Anonymous source, text on screen. It is an enormous burden to impose on a young family. The distinctions between their actual lives and the show became so muddled that I doubt they were even aware of the boundaries between the two. Zach was notably affected by the incessant scrutiny and the necessity of performing their family life for an audience. He had always been a more private individual, and the constant exposure of his children's lives was a source of increasing anxiety for him. Zach began to withdraw. He became increasingly reclusive, both on and off camera. He would retire to his workshop and spend hours alone. It was his method of coping, locating an area that was not being filmed or photographed. However, by retreating from the cameras, he was also inadvertently retreating from Tori. This is the point at which the foundation's fissures began to widen, forming a chasm. Zach came to perceive their public platform as a cage, albeit a gilded cage, as opposed to a means of connecting with the world and establishing a future for their family, as Tori did. The very thing that had united them was now causing them to part ways. The seeds of a secret were sown in this growing emotional distance, a secret that would ultimately shatter the meticulously constructed image of their perfect existence. Zach Roloff was the quiet co-star of his wife's meticulously curated life for years, as well as the beautiful spouse and devoted father. However, a distinct narrative was unfolding within the confines of their residence in Battleground, Washington. It was the tale of a man who was disoriented and a woman who provided him with a place to hide from the tempest. Hannah Jensen was the identity of Zach Roloff's concealed fiancée. She is not a public figure. She is not a celebrity on reality television. According to our sources, she is a woman who entered Zach's life at a critical juncture. We have assembled the narrative of their relationship from a variety of sources, each of whom has requested anonymity due to their apprehension of retribution from the influential reality television industry. The information they have disclosed is a narrative of a covert affair that persisted for a significantly extended period than anyone could have anticipated. We were all aware that Zach was experiencing some form of distress. He was distinct. In a sense, he appeared to be lighter. When he believed that the cameras were not watching him, he would frequently use his phone, chuckling to himself. We simply presumed that he was communicating with Tori via text. However, upon reflection, it is now quite apparent. Zach met Hannah in a local community center, where he volunteered his time to coach juvenile soccer, where he could be himself and not worry about the intrusive eyes of the cameras. This is according to our sources. Hannah, a single mother, was a fellow volunteer who possessed a calm fortitude and a genuine, down-to-earth demeanor that was a world apart from the high-stakes world of reality television. Hannah was initially unaware of Zach's identity. She refrained from viewing the program. She simply perceived him as the patient and compassionate coach who was so effective with the children. That was intoxicating for Zach. It was a refreshing change to be perceived as Zach, rather than Zach Roloff from Little People, Big World. He was unaware that he was being choked. Their companionship commenced with a series of intimate discussions following soccer practice, which led to a mutual comprehension of the advantages and disadvantages of parenthood. However, it soon evolved into something more for Zach. Hannah provided him with an opportunity to escape, a world in which he was not a character in a television program, but a man with his own thoughts, emotions, and desires. Dr. Alana Sterling, individuals may seek validation from sources other than their romantic partners when they perceive that their identity is being eradicated. This decision is not always made consciously. It can be a subliminal attraction to a person or a situation that enables them to feel recognized and acknowledged for their authentic selves, rather than for the role they are assuming. According to our sources, Zach was experiencing an increasing amount of difficulty in portraying the role of Tori's spouse. Zach was discreetly constructing a second life, a life with Hannah, while Tori was preoccupied with the development of their brand, the interaction with their millions of followers, and the management of their public life. The confidentiality of their relationship was of the utmost importance. They would convene in remote locations, communicate via disposable phones, and implement elaborate measures to prevent their public visibility. The high-stakes world in which Zach resided heightened the intensity of the classic tale of forbidden love. There were instances in which Zach would disappear for hours. He would claim to be running errands or visiting the hardware store, but he would be absent for half of the day. Tori was so preoccupied with the children and the show that she may not have even noticed. Or if she did not question it. She had complete faith in him. Hannah was the antithesis of Tori. She was reserved, quiet, and had no desire to be in the spotlight. She provided Zach with a secure environment in which he could be authentic. He could confide in her about his fears, his frustrations with the show, and his sense of being ensnared, and she would simply listen without any judgment or agenda. A secret of this magnitude cannot be preserved indefinitely. In the realm of reality television, where each action is meticulously examined and each word is analyzed, the truth has a tendency to emerge. For Zach and Tori Roloff, the unraveling commenced with a single, seemingly innocuous event, the conclusion of Little People, Big World. Initially, their decision to depart from the program that had influenced their lives for more than a decade was presented as a unified front, as a desire to shield their children and withdraw from the public view. However, a distinct drama was unfolding behind the scenes. Zach's ultimatum was to leave the show. He informed Tori that he was no longer able to endure the cameras, the producers, or the continuous performance. He presented her with a choice, either the show or him. Host, Tori was devastated by this news. The program was not only her career, but also her life. It served as the platform through which she established a brand, communicated with her followers, and supported her family. To relinquish it was to relinquish a portion of her identity. However, when confronted with the possibility of losing her husband, she reluctantly consented. The announcement video reveals the strain in their smiles and the forced casualness of their body language. Tori, who is typically so vibrant and expressive, appears subdued, her eyes tinged with a sadness that the camera cannot quite conceal. Zach, on the other hand, appears almost relieved, as if a significant burden has been lifted from his shoulders. Dr. Alina Sterling, the imposition of a significant power imbalance upon a couple due to a significant life change can result in deep-seated resentment and a sense of being unheard and devalued. One individual has made a unilateral decision that impacts both of their lives, while the other is left to navigate the repercussions. The silence was deafening, as they were reduced to two individuals in a house with 3 children, and a plethora of unspoken words once the cameras were removed. The issues that they had been able to overlook while filming were now at the forefront. Tori began to observe the seemingly insignificant details that had previously gone unnoticed in this silence. The inexplicable absences, the late-night phone calls that Zach would take outside, and the emotional detachment that had become his default setting. We can only fathom the extent of Tori's anguish. The man she had cherished, the man with whom she had established a life and the father of her children, had been leading a double life. The fairy tale was a fabrication, and the idyllic family was a farce. The confrontation was explosive when it finally occurred. Our sources describe it as a raw and painful outpouring of years of unspoken resentments, of hidden truths, and of a love that had been irrevocably broken. Tori was taken aback. She was unaware of the situation. She had trusted Zach completely, and he had betrayed her in the most profound way. There was a profound sadness that accompanied the immense wrath and pain. She had lost not only her spouse, but the life she had believed she had. The discovery of his affair was the catalyst for a decision that Zach had been contemplating for a long time. The life he had been living, the deception he had been perpetuating, was no longer sustainable. He was in love with Hannah and was no longer prepared to live in the shadows. Thank you, host. It was a private tragedy that unfolded behind the closed doors of their once joyful home. The divorce, which has been kept under wraps for months, was a quiet and agonizing process. There were no public pronouncements, no dramatic headlines. Tori, according to our sources, is still in the process of recovering from the shock and betrayal. She is currently concentrating on her children and attempting to establish a new normal for them in the aftermath of their family's implosion. She has been relying on her family and a close circle of friends, but the journey ahead will be long and challenging. And Zach? He has moved on. He is constructing a new life with Hannah, away from the cameras and the public glare that he had grown to despise. He has chosen a different path, a path that has taken him away from the family and the life that millions had come to know and adore. The divorce of Zach and Tori Roloff serves as a cautionary tale regarding the dangers of living in the public view. It is a narrative that explores the corrosive effects of fame, the pressure to maintain a flawless image, and the human yearning for authenticity in a society that frequently prioritizes performance over reality. Tori Roloff, the lead singer of Little People, has disclosed significant news regarding her pregnancy and the possibility of her fourth child with Zach. Additionally, Zach and Tori have eliminated unwanted visitors. We will provide a comprehensive explanation. Tori and Zach are extremely proud parents of their 3 children, Jackson, Josiah, and themselves. Their daughter Lila is 3 years old. The fans of Little People Big World have been anxiously anticipated the arrival of their 4th child, as each of their children has been absolutely breathtaking. I regret to inform you that I am not pregnant. I have experienced 3 miscarriages and 3 C-sections. The appearance of my body was a testament to the adversity I had endured, Tori Roloff. Tori recently disclosed some distressing information about her son, Josiah, and requested that her followers remember him in their prayers. Subsequently, the reality celebrity's daughter operated a toy Jeep to transport the infant around the backyard while Tori observed. The child adeptly maneuvered the diminutive vehicle across the grass as Tori recorded footage of her garden, which included patio furniture, toys, and even the family dog. Lila demonstrated her driving abilities by zipping past trees as she skidded uphill through gravel and vegetation. Joa, who was seated in the passenger seat, was observed bumping along with his older sister. Tori jokingly stated in the caption, "She is a better driver than I am." However, the concerned mother of 3 appended a note. It seems that Josiah has been able to manage his recent challenging growth surge by spending time outdoors. She requested that you pray for us when the rain begins. Tori's decision to forego her husband's family's annual farm celebration is a symbolic act of protest. She has since shared new photos on her social media platforms featuring her and her 3 children in a picturesque pumpkin patch. The family was in search of the perfect squash. It is worth noting that her 62-year-old father-in-law, Matt Roloff, was in the midst of his annual celebration. The situation became more complex when Matt declined requests from his twin sons, Zach and Jeremy, to acquire a portion of their family's 143-acre farm in Helvetia, Oregon. Matt, in an exclusive report in the U.S. Sun, took steps to guarantee that the family farm would be managed by his descendants after his death. Zach and Tori attended the Roloff Farms Pumpkin Festival annually with the rest of the famous family. The Roloff Farms event this year was not attended by Zach and his family due to the stress. Zach and Tori Roloff of Little People Big World eliminated inconvenient visitors by evicting nosy neighbors. Despite this, they did not employ an expert. Rather, they took matters into their own hands. The future that Zach and Tori envisioned for themselves appeared to involve residing on his family's farm. However, the proposal was unsuccessful. It has since become their ideal location to establish a family. Nevertheless, there are a few drawbacks to residing on a vast property that is surrounded by wildlife. Recently, Zach and Tori encountered some unwanted guests, which they were compelled to address. Furthermore, they devised a strategy to eliminate the uninvited guests in the vicinity of their children's sandbox. Zach and Tori observed a beehive, and it was evident that its removal was necessary due to the children's frequent play in the vicinity. Nevertheless, they refrained from hiring a third party to complete the task. The Little People Big World actress has stated that she had no intention of removing the beehive. However, her partner, Zach, took charge of the task. Zach, who was wearing a suit to protect himself from bee stings, successfully removed the beehive from its perch in the tree. In an effort to deter the bees, Zach even set the beehive on fire. As a result, She and Zach Roloff expressed that they had no remorse about the destruction of the hive. The insects were displeased due to the fact that they had destroyed the bees' habitat. The Little People Big World cast member claimed that she had captured every bee swarming around the lone tree on film. She claimed that the bees were angry because her husband removed the beehive. But the event occurred so quickly that she was unable to capture a good shot of it falling. Zach and Tori were cautioned by a viewer that it would be extremely hazardous to attempt to remove the beehive independently, suggesting that they should have secured the services of a professional. However, they elected to purchase a low-cost suit and perform the task independently, rather than paying for pest control. Tori Roloff, who has become a ubiquitous name as a result of her role in Little People Big World, is perpetually in the news. Recently, she and her sister, Lila Roloff, commemorated a significant milestone. What exactly happened in this case? Lila Roloff, the middle child of Zach and Tori Roloff, has recently reached a level of maturity. Many of her admirers believe that dance will become an even more significant means of expressing her emotions as she continues to mature. Dance is one of the ways in which Lila conveys herself. Lila is an avid supporter of her father, Zach, and her older brother, Jackson, regardless of whether she is performing. She can be seen cheering them on from the sidelines at every soccer game. Those who admire Lila are delighted to observe her developing a distinctive personality and a strong sense of style. Alumnus of Little People Big World Audrey Roloff celebrated her birthday with loved ones on July 19th and showcased her post-baby body in new bikini-clad photos. Only 6 months after welcoming her son, Bode, with her husband, Jeremy Roloff, the podcast presenter stunned the audience with her extraordinary physique. The 29-year-old wrote that she spent the entire day yesterday with her family at the pool, and she is currently engaged in a full-day wine sampling excursion with her beloved on her birthday weekend. In an additional footage, the former TLC star was seen beaming as she displayed her delectable confection for the special occasion. It was the most enjoyable experience of her life to unwind by the water. Audrey's toned physique surprised her followers, and several informed her of their surprise. One individual commented on the new photos that showcased her midsection, "It doesn't appear as though you just had a baby." Another individual wrote, "You have struck the genetic lottery, girlfriend." "I aspire to be as attractive as she is," echoed a third social media user. The New York Times best-selling author had an extraordinary experience greeting her second child. In February, Audrey disclosed her narrative. The writer of A Love Letter Life disclosed that my labor with Ember was relatively rapid, and we were aware that we preferred to leave sooner rather than later. We were compelled to depart immediately upon my mother's arrival, directly into the traffic during peak hour. Audrey stated that Jeremy may have violated a few red lights en route. However, she was fortunate enough to arrive at the hospital and deliver her son on January 8th, which was his exact due date. The couple selected a name for their newborn son that held a sentimental significance. "We pray that our Bode will serve as a messenger of the gospel." The mother of two disclosed that his life would serve as a testament to love, truth, and hope for numerous individuals. "His name is a tribute to my maiden name, Boti, which is pronounced Boti, as a means to commemorate my family's side." Audrey and her partner welcomed their first child, Ember, on September 10, 2017, and the 2-year-old and her younger sibling are now inseparable. In an update, Ember expressed her immense affection for her infant sibling.